Hello, America. This is Mr. Citizen Patriot. I finally have made it here to Washington, D.C. I've been around for 17 years, born in Los Angeles in 2003. My role is to bring patriotism to a higher level in our country. My role is to wear this uniform for the sake of the men and women who wore their uniforms to be shot at, that I may be free. I didn't go to be shot at, but the least that I can do for those men and women who gave their lives for me is to wear this uniform to remind the world who they are and what they've done. And I've come also to raise the spirit of patriotism in our country, to come together, whether you're on the political right or left, it doesn't matter right now. We as a nation must come together, and what better person to help bring the nation together than a person like Mr. Citizen Patriot. And for more information on Mr. Patriot and how to get in touch with me and participate in this new awakening of American patriotism, go to mrpatriot.us. Get involved with this new American patriotism that we're bringing to you today. Hey, everybody. Good evening. It is July the 11th, the year 2022. Welcome to another exciting, enlightening episode of Your Power Weapon on urbansmartnetwork.com. Your Power Weapon on urbansmartnetwork.com. We're here every Monday night, as you know, at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Coast time and 10 o'clock p.m. East Coast time every Monday night. And we invite you to link us to all of your social media, your Facebooks, your Instagram, your Snapchats, your Twitters, whatever you do, Telegram, and let the world know what's going on over here with Your Power Weapon on urbansmartnetwork.com. The title of our conversation tonight is Republicans. This is kind of following a theme that we've been working on for the last few weeks because the country is really spinning seemingly out of control. I mean, I know y'all must be paying attention out there what's going on, but tonight's topic, again, following the same theme, is Republicans are the false guardians of our republic. I'm going to repeat that. The Republican Party is the false guardian of our republic. What does that mean? Because everybody right now, at least among the conservatives and the Republicans, are really vicious, not viciously, but correctly attacking, or let me put it this way, what they are saying about the antics and the tactics of the Democratic Party, particularly as how the Democrats are ginning up racism, white supremacy, and casting it on Republicans and Democrats and other people, while the Democrats continue all their socialist antics. The Republican Party is actually behind all of this. Did you hear me? I said, in my opinion anyway, the Republican Party is actually the real fault and the reason for why our country is about, our republic is about to be lost. We're going to come back to that in a minute, but I want to first of all say to Keith Hardeen, my host, the constitutional self-defense expert, lay expert in all of America, and I'm honored to have this young man on my podcast for y'all to learn something from, especially with all the random violence going on across the country. And don't think it cannot happen in your neighborhood or that it cannot happen to you, because it can. And that's usually when it happens, when you least expect it. Well, I want to say to Keith, welcome, Keith Hardeen. Come on, brother. Let people see you, man. How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Talk to us, man.
Very good, sir. Good to see everybody. I am definitely interested in this topic tonight. It's very telling.
Huh. It's very cutting edge too, man. Because if this is not heard and taken correctly, they'll say that I done gone socialist.
No, not when you look at what Liz Cheney and some of the others are doing up there in Washington. They may as well be Democrats.
Well, Keith. Um, Before we take off on that, I want to talk with you tonight first, with all the listeners, because I tell us you've been teaching this constitutional uh, self defense message, and it's really apropos. Yesterday, I don't know if you heard about it, ladies and gentlemen, viewers. Keith, I think you mentioned it when we were on the phone earlier. My daughter called me this morning and said, "Dad, did you hear?" I said, "What's going on, babe?" She said, "Downtown L.A., an Olympic volleyball player, black, beautiful black lady, went to have dinner near Skid Row in downtown, apparently. And she came out the restaurant and she started looking at this guy that appeared to be homeless. I mean, what does homeless look like, right? And he had this weird, strange look in his face, right? So she's paying nothing to it. Dude ran up on her with a lead pipe, y'all, and he cracked her in the face, man. Messed her face up. Had to go to the hospital. Mentally ill homeless cat. Mentally ill homeless cat. Now, this has been going on all over the country, a lot of it you never hear about. And I remember when I was down on Skid Row back in 1985, there was a black dude. Most of the cats are black. You know why? Because the predominance of homeless people in America disproportionately black. That is sister is, man. Look at that beautiful woman. Beautiful, statuesque woman. That dude cracked upside her face with that pipe, man. See what I'm saying? And frankly, I remember, like as I was saying, down on Skid Row, there was this guy, black fellow, and he would sneak up on people when they weren't looking and just smack them upside their head with his fist hard as he could, knock them out, and then take off running. Well, one day he attacked this young lady who was a part of a gang club that I was working with down there on Skid Row by the name of the Flats, young Mexican group. And this dude hauled off and smacked the living daylights at this girl. And they chased him. They chased him right past me, and I had to run up there and catch up with him because they started trying to kill this young man, and I had to get him up off of him and so forth. The point I'm making is this has been going on a lot: stabbings, beatings, pushing down uh, um, um, subway steps, and nobody seems to know what to do about it. And by the way, Keith and people, my daughter is investigating because, as you know, this is my oldest daughter, Dia. As you know, my youngest daughter, Joanna, is an Olympian gold medalist, and she's one of the head coaches at USC track and field, and she's traveling a lot these days, and she's up in Oregon right now at the World Games with her athletes. But nonetheless, the point I'm making is she's going to talk to my youngest daughter, and they're going to try to find out how to get in touch with this young lady and see what we can do to support her. Because I think if I was her attorney, I would sue the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles and the state of California and the federal government what happened to this young lady. And I want to show them how they can do that, because this is the failure of our public servants whom we pay tax dollars to. We work hard and we pay these public servants who really are our employees to do what we want them to do and not have this kind of carryings on in our streets. Yet there it is, and they should be prosecuted. If I had my way, and one day I will, God willing, because we're working on it right now. We got a meeting with the White House next week, y'all. Next Wednesday, we got a meeting with the White House on Zoom, my whole team. And one of the things that we're pushing for is the Department of Justice to investigate the civil rights violations of the city and county of LA. And within that, we're going to uncover why these government officials or servants need to be investigated, prosecuted, if found guilty, arrested, and punished. Keith, talk to us, man. Something happened recently with you, and you've got an advancement. More people are talking with you about your concept. Talk to us, brother. What's going on?
Well, yeah, man, that concept is very clear that people need to learn to exercise their natural right of self-defense against violent aggression and without becoming the aggressors. And that is the key right there. If you can do it without becoming the aggressor. And that's what I teach. We learn how to defend ourselves. I've been in the martial arts for over 50 years, and I still train. At 66, I'm still in shape, still can
No
do it.
kid, I sure don't want to mess with you. Y'all should see Keith, man. He is not the cat to mess with. Go ahead, Keith.
So
No,
anyway,
I know. Look at you.
yeah, but yeah, we've got to learn how to defend ourselves. You know, God has given us the right to self-defense. That right belongs to all of us. It's a wonder that woman did
Stop.
not
Stop for
lose.
1 second. Are you
Yeah.
saying where you getting that from? You getting that from the Declaration of Independence when you say the right and inalienable rights? That's one of our. That's not mentioned, but that is one of other life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. But one of those inalienable rights is you saying the right of self-defense.
Well, you know, he says that we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Those rights could not be taken from us, but yet they are trying.
And
And
one of those rights you're saying is the right of self-defense when
that's right.
attacked by an aggressor.
That's right. That's right. Because the right of self-defense is the first law of nature that prevents death. I mean, how can you protect life if you first don't know how to defend yourself, or the other life that you're trying to defend? So we have to defend life, just like in the life in the womb. It must be defended. It must be protected by government. That's government's first duty, to protect life. And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
they should be protecting our lives as well against aggression, foreign and domestic violence. And so there is a domestic violence happening here in our cities, and this violence needs to be curtailed by government. But if government is not doing that job, then it's our first duty to be able to do that job for ourselves.
Keith, something happened to my son, my eldest son, a few years ago, and he was in a bar having a drink with the bartender and they're talking and so forth and so on. And a guy came in, and words was shared between, I guess, the bartender and some I forget how it goes. So anybody, somebody brought out a stick and went at my boy, and my boy took the stick from the dude and beat his ass with it. Well, guess who went to jail when the police came?
Your
My son.
boy.
You know
Yep.
what the police told me? You know what the police told him? He said, "Now look, sir. Now you beat this man with his own weapon. We get that. He started it, but you should have called the police after you did it immediately, because he called the police before you did. You are the one that's now the aggressor. Now, now, how do you deal with that? Look at New York, Keith. Look at New York. What's that guy's name from Dominican Republic? He's happened to be sitting in his son's place at the what do you call it, Bodego, and
Yeah.
I guess a deli.
Yeah.
And this brother, a young black man, and his young black beautiful queen. They come rolling up in there, and apparently, folks, I don't know if y'all heard this or not, but look it up. Apparently, the young lady wanted to buy some chips, and her CBD card didn't register because she had no money, and apparently. So the man said, "I can't give you the chips." So the brother got nasty, went all behind the counter, ladies and gentlemen, got this man's like maybe my age. He's not my age, not in Keith's age. Keith's just a baby. I'm 71. And he went back there and harassed this man, pushed him down, carried on, just disrespected him, had no training from his parents at all about respect of elders. Even if you disagree with, you got no business putting your hands on no elder. And that old man, he knew his stuff now. He knows how to use a knife. Apparently, he's from the Dominican Republic. And that old man stabbed that boy, and that boy died. He died.
That's right.
See? He got up that morning thinking he's going to bully some more people. And apparently, Keith, y'all, this young man has a record, a criminal record. And then the girlfriend, she stabbed the dude before the dude stabbed him. So now he went to jail. And he's being faced with 20-some years in prison. Second-degree murder. Keith, now you teaching people how to defend themselves. What if,
Yeah.
let's say one of your people use a coup baton.
Yeah.
They pop somebody right in the neck or in the forehead or somewhere very injurious. They may die or they may be crippled. What then, my brother? You
Well,
teaching people how
the
to knock folks
part
out, but you got law enforcement saying,
yeah,
"Hey, you wrong for
part
defending
that
yourself."
the part that becomes self-defense is when you have enough stopping power. All you need is you have a weapon for stopping power. Let's say the guy, you take a stick away from somebody, or you take a knife away, or some weapon that
Or
somebody,
gun, or gun.
gun, or somebody uses on you. Then you don't turn around and use the same weapon on them. What you do is you take the weapon and discard the weapon. You've already stopped them. That may be enough, because usually when a person's weapon is taken from them, they have nothing else to resort to, and they'll run.
Because they're
And
punks, right?
yeah, they'll probably run. But if he doesn't run, you can strike him. You can still, hit him with it, but you don't have to continue to hit him with it. You hit him long enough to stop him from attacking you, and that's what the real point is about the weapons. As far as the knife goes, the old man that had the knife, when the young black man attacked him, pushed him and attacked him, what he could have done if he had been trained, well, at least the way I'm trained, is he could have slashed the inside of his. I'd go right for the inside, the flexor muscles,
Why?
the flexor tendons. The
Why?
flexor tendons are what allows me to do this.
But
What,
you will permanently injure that person,
not
wouldn't you?
permanent, not permanently. The tendons can be mended back together. It may take time, but the tendons. This is what enables you to grab and hold things. If you
Right?
tendon, then you're no longer able to hold on to something. So that
Ah,
means you can't hold your weapon.
ah.
That's what you.
Well,
Well,
I don't know, Keith, because
it's
what?
slashing the throat. It's better than stabbing in the organs, because death, that's certain death. At least with this, you'll be injured. Yeah, you will be injured pretty bad.
What you say?
So
Yeah, you could be injured pretty
yeah,
bad.
be able to hold on
Teach
to
you
things.
about it next time, huh?
You won't be able to pick up anything in that hand anymore. You won't be able to use that hand for a little while.
And you
And
may, but then again, see, knowing our system now, our system of justice and the way it's working, I don't know, Keith. You're right. I'm not arguing your position, what you're teaching, what you're doing, but I'm a little concerned that our people are going to find themselves in bad court situations for defending themselves. And a lot of us, you know what? Like me, I don't have a weapon, folks. That's not a signal to all y'all out there listening that you may want to try me. You don't want to try an old dude like me. And and the I forgot my train of thought, but that's okay.
well,
People, oh, I know
yeah,
what I was gonna say. I know what I was gonna say. I don't have the discipline to have a weapon. See, I don't have a weapon. I don't have a gun. I don't. I used to. I was gonna learn the martial arts back in the '70s from an expert. I chose not to do it because I'm the kind of person. If I got a weapon, and I don't have the discipline that it takes, well, I can't be a police officer. I'm gonna hurt you. I'm gonna hurt you good. See, because I'm scared of you. Like Mama teaches us. She said, "Don't make people scared of you, because they lose it." And I'm scared of you. You scare me, I'm liable to hurt you. And if I have a weapon, I'm gonna use it. But if I don't have a weapon, I'll do the other part of survival: fight or flight. I'll flight. I'll run. I'm gone.
well,
That's
that's
just
why
me, though, Keith.
you would be the perfect candidate, because it's very important to know how to train yourself. I mean, that is an obligation. That is a part of the civil society. How do we maintain the civil society? By trained people, by citizens who are training themselves to be able to handle a situation of aggression. That's how we maintain the civil society. We don't maintain it by people who go around and they have no training. All they are just a bunch of reactionaries. That's what we have right now. That's why the civil society is crumbling. We need to go back to educating people, back to training people to keep their, you know, keep their wits about them. And they have to be aware. They got to be situational awareness. They have to be, alert and aware and
So
ready to go.
basically, so I'm
Ready.
sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, ready and prepared to handle an aggression. That's the way the civil society is maintained. That's how we maintain our freedom.
So you're essentially saying then that like a person, you could tell by the way a person walks or the way a person talks and carries themselves, you better not mess with them. You
Yeah.
send out, so to speak, a psychological Pharaoh. I am
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
You
Well,
respect me, I respect you. Do you disrespect me, you're gonna get disrespected. And you think you crazy, I'm gonna show you crazy.
that's right. And
And
we
so
should
you're
be.
saying that that would serve as a general societal deterrent if enough if the criminal sissy out there knew that the average American citizen knows how to defend themselves well and even hurt you, take your life if necessary. You're saying that that would automatically tamp down. In other words, I ain't gonna mess with Keith because he walks like a martial artist type of thing.
That's right. He walks. Have gun will travel.
And they're very polite too. I noticed the Green Beret cast, the special forces, when you run into them in the I'm run into them. That's the last thing was run into a special forces dude. But when you meet them in the airport or something, they're the most polite people, the nicest people, respectful you ever want to meet. But you better not mess because that dude can become a monster. Am I correct about that, Keith?
That's correct. I like George Washington's statement. George Washington said, "If we desire to avoid insult, we must be able to repel it. If
Whoa.
we desire peace, it must be made known that we are at all times ready for war."
Who said that?
George Washington.
Oh, come on, Keith. How couldn't you follow George? He's a white man.
Yeah, got it.
See what? Some of the white boys did something right, huh?
Yeah, he sure did. George Washington was a good man. I don't care what anybody says about.
But he had slaves, man.
I don't care.
You go, Keith.
That's right.
All right. Okay.
That's the point.
Now you're
That's
right, brother. I'm with you. I'm with old George as well. I think George is a pretty cool cat as well. He had a lot to learn. And one of the things the founding fathers did, ladies
I'll
and
tell you
gentlemen.
one thing. Let me just say this. I'll be honest with you. If I were living back then,
Yeah.
I, if I was going to be a slave, I'd rather be his slave than a slave of
Simon
Stephen.
agreed.
Yeah,
Something like
Stephen.
that. Yeah. So well, actually, George Washington did have this one black slave that rode with him all the time. He was at George Washington's side all the time.
That's right.
Folks, you are listening to Ted, your power weapon on urbansmartnetwork.com every Monday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Coast time, 10 o'clock p.m. over there on the East Coast time. Your power weapon. Tell all your friends. Facebook it. On your Twitter, your Snapchat, your Instagram. People in your office who you play with. Out there playing balls. Hey man, if y'all checked out the Urban Smart Network's Your Power Weapon Monday night, you need to go check it out, man. UrbanSmartNetwork.com. Okay. Okay. We're gonna segue. We're gonna segue to this topic because Keith, eh, everything is falling apart in our country. The social justice system, the economic system, the racial uh, turmoil is really ginning up here. Um, we are defunding our police officers. Uh, Police officers are quitting. Uh, Inflation is on the increase, like you wouldn't believe, and they're predicting a hurricane economy. They're predicting a recession. This recession will be bigger than the one, I guess, the biggest recession ever, which means people gonna lose their jobs, gonna lose their housing, gonna lose their rental apartments. They're gonna lose relationships with their married couples or couples. Families are gonna break apart because when all that stress is going on, economic stress and everything, people get agitated with each other, and you usually strike out at those who are closest to you when you're agitated. More people going to become homeless. We haven't even resolved the present homeless crises, and now more are coming. And apparently, these guys, from my view and understanding, these new homeless people are going to be angry, resentful, because they just lost everything suddenly. And they're going to be armed, Keith. They have guns and knives because they've seen so much crime down there with the homeless. Like the lady got beat up the other day by that guy. And they're going to be carrying. And I'm concerned at the same time that as these new people come, some have money to get RVs and other things, and they'll be camped out in front of people's houses. And then the people, frustrated with it, knowing that the government has failed, the police cannot enforce public codes of public health and safety, ladies and gentlemen. You have essentially what you have is an early stage of apocalypse when the law enforcement cannot enforce just the basic low level, low fruit hanging violations such as public health and safety. You have apocalypse. And people are going to realize the police ain't coming. So a lot of folks are armed, even liberals. And there's a sentiment growing that there's going to be, it's already some out there right now, there's going to be vigilantism. And the only way that this is going to stop is if the military comes and just round everybody up, bring everybody down. Everybody, not just the homeless, everybody, because there'll be chaos everywhere. If that happens, then we become a Nazi America. But then if that happens, there's a lot of militia groups on the political right, left, and in the middle who just don't care. There's patriots. They train every weekend, y'all. They train. They got good weapons. They got very good weapons. You see, and this is one reason why the socialists are crying the blues about this weapons thing because because they know that the Second Amendment was not granted to us to keep the thugs off of us. Ultimately, it was granted to the American citizen to keep a rogue military off of us. And I'm concerned that these militias are going to strike. And then we have martial law, even more so. And is this not what exactly the socialist playbook is doing? Creating a state of chaos. So out of chaos will grow a new regime of totalitarianism, as in Russia, China, North Korea, Vietnam, and all those places. That seems to be what's going on? You see, and
Yeah.
you got to ask yourself the question: why is all this happening? And you got to ask your question: where are the guardians of the republic, i.e., the Republicans? The same party back in 1854-56 resolved that they were going to clear the name of God, clear the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution by including the American Africans into the Republican form of government system. And they did that first part. But the second part, they have miserably failed. Where are the guardians of the Republic, Keith?
Wow. That's a good question, man. Well, here we are right here.
Ah, there you go, black men. We got a black engineer, got a black co-host. So what's up with Republicans, in your opinion?
Well, they once again he dropped the ball, obviously, and we have to take a responsibility. Like I said earlier, with the right to self-defense, it's a responsibility. We have to train ourselves. We have to train ourselves. That is the biggest thing that I can do in society to reform society, and that is to train people, to be ready to defend their natural rights.
But when you say so let me get this a little clearer here. Are you saying that self-defense will clean up the social justice system?
Yes,
That
sir.
self-defense will clean up the economic recession?
Yes, sir. The way I picture it, I look at the whole man, the whole person, the spirit, the soul, body. First Thessalonians in the New Testament 5:23, it says that I pray God. Paul was the apostle said, I pray God, your whole body, your whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless unto the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. So our spirit, soul, and body must be preserved blameless. In order for that to happen, you've got to train yourself to be obedient to the covenant. Be obedient to the New Testament, to the new
Well,
covenant.
I agree with that, but let me just add though, the best self-defense in all of this is that we, the people, know our constitutional rights. And I'm not
That's right.
just saying physical self-defense. I'm talking about not just even psychological self-defense. I'm talking about psychological offense.
Mhm.
Offense. You see, the founding fathers had folks. How many of y'all raise your hand? How many of y'all are aware that the United States is not a fully established nation yet? I mean, on paper, yes. Okay. But how many of y'all realize that American uh, Article 4, Section 4 says that we have a Republican form of government? How many of y'all really know that, are aware that the United States of America is actually an experiment? It's an experiment, ladies and gentlemen. It is an experiment and governing. You see, it's an experiment between monarchy, which is always tyrannical, generally tyrannical, and it's been going on from the beginning of civilization. We've always been ruled by kings, queens, emperors, empresses, generals, warlords, chieftains, strong men and women who recognize that human beings would rather be told what to do than to govern and make decisions. And here we are in America. Everybody's running around asking what's going on. People don't realize that America is not permanent. We could lose it tomorrow, y'all. You see, the founding fathers said that government of the people. The kings say impossible. Historically, it's not true, and human nature says it's not true. And so it looks to me like as noble as the effort of the founding fathers is because it's still going on. It looks like King George, Keith, is about to be vindicated.
Uh,
It looks like he is winning the conversation about what's a better form of government, monarchism or republicanism or democracy, whichever one of those kind that you choose. And and there's a reason why this is happening. What say you, Keith?
well, I'm not ready to push it that far yet. I still think that the founders are wise men and gave us a republic if we could keep it. And they knew about human nature when they set it all up, and they knew human nature was flawed. So that in itself, I mean, even with because of the fact that slavery existed and was legal, and some of them had slaves, so they knew the failure of human nature. They knew the failure of man, and yet they set it up anyway. So I
They
think,
set it up anyway, didn't they?
yeah,
And 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 of course they had that last sentence there with a firm a
reliant.
firm reliance is the
Hmm.
word
Yeah.
on the protection of divine providence. I was watching something the other day how they were saying when George Washington and the fellas was trapped on Long Island, I think it was, and that British general about to capture them, and they had to escape across the river. And they say a fog came in that night out of nowhere, and they escaped.
That's
And
right.
there's been a lot of incidents about America down through history. Even when you look at D-Day, D-Day was not supposed to happen. That storm stopped just long enough for the invasion of Europe to happen. The very next day, what happened? Big storm came. See, so, but while all that is true, can we just sit back and say, well, God's going to take care of it? Or is there something we have to do? I think there's something we have to do. And
Yeah.
what I feel that I've got to do as part of divine providence and protection is to call out the Republican Party for what it is. Ladies
Good.
and gentlemen, you need to study what republicanism actually is. Some people think that republicanism and conservatism are two in the same. Ladies and gentlemen, republicanism and conservatism are not the same. Those are two different entities. You see, two different ideas. You see, um, when you read and study what a Republican actually is, the only purpose of the Republican Party, which was built for the American African slaves and their freedom and their advancement in this country. That's what they were supposed to do. But the Republican Party no longer does that. Republican Party, when they did that, they had a moral high ground cause. So much so that they were willing to sacrifice young white boys and men in the Civil War to get a grip of that and maintain that for the sanctity of this nation, the moral high ground cause. But instead, what you are seeing is Republicans, instead of that issue, they have embraced conservatism. And conservatism does not have a moral high ground cause. Conservatism is very selfish, very money oriented, very me oriented. I talked back in the days of the Take Back America movement, and I said to one of the leading lieutenants out here in Beverly Hills, I said, sir, you wonder why black folks don't come to y'all's rallies? Y'all, where the black people at? You know why they don't come? Because you don't talk about them. You don't talk about their issues. You don't talk about homelessness. You don't talk about what's going on there in the cities. All you do is harangue on the Democrats and the socialists and the communists about how they're taking your money, robbing your family of their freedom and their children of their education. You see, and don't have a moral cause. They said, take America back. And I said, sir, take America back to what? When was America good for the American Africans? When? Do you know when? See, he didn't know. He said, you make a good point. Because a lot of people think that it was during the Eisenhower era or the Ronald Reagan era or even the Trump era, make America great again. What does that mean, make America? When was America great? America? When? Well, see, the greatest time in American history, ladies and gentlemen, was during the Civil War era, when Americans were questioning their moral values, when they were questioning the way they behaved in their treatment of the American Africans. That's when this country was great, because it was being honest with itself, and it shed blood with itself in order to fulfill what they said in the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution and all the other platitudes of freedom and liberty. You see, that's when America was great, when fellow human beings were freed from the horrible, dehumanizing, industrialized institution of generations destroying chattel slavery. That's when America was great. And until America goes back to that foundation, we're going to lose the republic. Remember, Keith, when Benjamin Franklin, on behalf of all the founding fathers, on September 22nd, 1789, when they ratified the Constitution, and the people standing outside and said, Mr. Franklin, what kind of government did y'all give us? You won the war. What kind of how y'all going to govern now? He says, we have given you a republic. Caveat, if you can keep it. How that rap song go? I can give it to you. But what you gonna do with it? We've given you a republic. What you gonna do with it? Now, what's so significant about that, folks? What's significant about that is the founding fathers admit in the preamble that we are an imperfect nation, an imperfect union. The greatest imperfection of America is chattel slavery. Not that the United States invented it. The United States inherited from the British Empire. Chattel slavery. The greatest imperfection was chattel slavery. And that is what this nation was supposed to fix. And Benjamin Franklin, who was the leading anti-slavery abolitionist, and the founding fathers knew this, and they made him a spokesperson, and he said, if you can keep it. Now, what does keeping the republic mean? Getting rid, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. That, that, that is keeping the republic. There is no other cause than that cause of keeping the republic. And I attest to you today, ladies and gentlemen, and let this go down on the record, that if the United States, if the Republican Party does not come to its senses and stop running and stop hanging on to these so-called conservative values and take up the values of America and ridding it of this great imperfection, God gonna take this country down, y'all. You're looking at the last throes of America. You know, people say, well, you're being racist. Why black people? Well, forget about black people. I'm talking about American Africans who were brought here, about Africans who were brought here, Americanized against their will, and the country was built on their back. Got nothing to do with skin color. That's just what happened. That's just what happened. See, and that has to be rectified, because if it isn't rectified, and that this issue is not the number one issue of America's business domestically and internationally, God gonna take this country down. Gonna get rid of it. See, and most people don't realize that. Abraham Lincoln had to learn this language, Keith,
Right.
because they were saying, well, you gotta let the slaves go. No, you can't let the slaves go. Abraham Lincoln said, look here, hold up. I don't care whether I set one slave free, 1,000, or set no slaves free. My number one objective is to what? Perfect the union. Save the union. Well, Abraham
Yeah.
Lincoln came to his senses, and he said, you know what? The only way I'm going to save the union is I have to make the issue of chattel slavery the number one issue of this nation. And God saved the union, but it's not finished yet. What do you think of that, Keith?
Well, part of his in the Declaration of Independence, part of his speech before the Declaration, or concerning the Declaration, he said, "Let us readopt the practices and policies which," and this is Abraham Lincoln, "let us readopt the practices and policies which harmonize with the Declaration of Independence, and will save the nation." That was a very simple statement.
Yes, yes, it is. And the way and the glue to that and the bridge to that is, I'll say black right now, is the salvation of black folks in America. Because the salvation of black folks in America is the salvation of the nation. You take, for example, as you know, I'm an activist for homeless. I'm the nation's number one activist. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, next week, I think I mentioned earlier in the podcast, my A team, we're having a Zoom meeting with the president, not with the president, but with the White House on this issue of homelessness. Yeah. We finally broke them down. But however, the main thing that we're talking about with homelessness is the fact that the predominance, the overwhelming disproportionate numbers and complexities in homelessness are black folks, the American Africans who were the chattel slaves, and that we have to address these people first and foremost, because if we do not address homelessness from that perspective, um, then you cannot resolve homelessness at all. Homeless people, particularly homeless black people, you're going to find out soon in the future, are the salvation of this very nation. Um, and it's going to be a shocker to people that that is the only way out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's something very interesting. We found out recently that the White House's new policy on homelessness, the number one policy, they say that the cause of so much black homelessness in America is systemic racism. It stems back, of course, to chattel slavery, Jim Crow, but they're saying that it's not so much that racism affects black people on the streets alone, down at the bottom of the world, but also systemic racism began when they had jobs, when they were trying to work in the mainstream. And because of the racism that's there and the inherited racism, over the generations, it has created a system where automatically black folks are pushed to the very low level of society. That's a great picture, Smoke. And the American flag is sitting there, should be upside down, really, but they don't know nothing about that right now. This should not be in America. This is, and it's mainly black folks living like this out there. You see, so I have to ask the question: where is the Republican Party? Oh, they too busy beating up on the socialists and the Democrats and the communists. See, Keith, you said your self-defense concept creates a automatic defense, right? It deters aggression, and what this is right here, what you're seeing is that's an invitation to the socialist, to the Marxist, to say to the world, see, here is the ultimate statement of capitalism, right there. Homeless people, black homeless people. I talked with a friend of mine today from Armenia. He's a movie producer. We had some time together today. And he was saying that in Armenia, in Russia, and in Europe, I didn't realize it this much, so he told me. He said all the black activists in the 1960s, Angela Davis, the Black Panthers, Eldridge Cleaver, you name it, um, they were like heroes. They had posters of these people. They were saying, the communists were saying, these black people are the ones you should look up to. And you know what the communists have always done in this country since 1964? The Marxists, they've always used black people. They've always used black people to undermine this country. You take, for example, this whole issue with defund the police. Where'd that start from? That started in 1964. What do you mean, Ted? Watch riot. What do you mean, Ted? Brother got into a conflict with the police over here and what? They didn't kill him. They just roughed him up. Well, other black folks saw it. They went crazy. Cops beat some more people up. Man, Watts blew up. And everybody said, F the police, pig mother effers, right? Then Newark happened. F the police. Then King happened. And he was assassinated. Cities blowing up everywhere. F the police. This recent spat. Rodney King. F the police. Riots. This whole thing with George Floyd and all this Black Lives Matter. F the police. And out of that, the white socialist liberals who don't need police in their neighborhood to protect them from each other, but said, defund the police. Why? So that black people could continue to kill each other in the neighborhoods, you see. That's the matter of black lives, you see. Defund the police. And the sad thing about it is he always did it behind black folks. And the Republicans stood there. Republicans are the ones who liberated black folks from the Democratic Party's institutional racist chattel slavery. They gave up the high moral cause to the Democrats. And the Democrats are using it to the fullest of their extent. And I don't blame them, frankly, Keith. What do you think about that?
Man, I tell you, that is pretty much you got it down, and you got it down. You got the narrative down.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. You know, one of the things that I've learned about all of this is that the socialists are gaslighting our patriots, and they're making them the racist when really these guys are the racists. And you say, well, why don't Republicans speak up? Because the Republicans folks are tired of black folks. They're scared of us. Not scared that we're going to hurt them, but they're scared that if they told the truth about slavery, who did what to who in slavery and Jim Crow, that black folks would say, oh, I did not know that. Let me go home to the Republican Party house that was built for me. Well, look at this. Absolutely correct. The engineer just keeps throwing these images up here, man. There you go. Look at the fist, ladies and gentlemen. Very similar, huh? Very similar. See, even George Soros, from what I understand, a socialist communist, is the one that initially funded the Black Lives Matter movement and gave them all those crazy slogans and did all this to bring about the chaos that we're seeing now. But I don't blame George Soros. I blame the Republicans, Mitch McConnell, the Republican leadership. I blame them for not telling the truth. They're spending all this time fighting with this January 6th business and really of Sean Hannity and all the conservatives are all up in the air about this. All they got to do is turn on the light. Keith, you know, you know that when we turn on the light, darkness flees away. And because our light as Republicans is not on, that political darkness is taking over the country. You see, folks, I said earlier, I'm going to close out here shortly. I said earlier that 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 the Republican Party has somehow equated itself with conservatism. But I want to say something to you. You've heard me say it before. I'm going to say it again. When you look at chattel slavery and where it was located primarily in the southern states, and it was a Democratic Party, we got that part politically. But what Sean and the conservatives have failed to do, which is why the Democrats are running amok, is because they failed to say to acknowledge the fact that the South were Christians, people who said they believed in Jesus and the Bible, and they believed in conservative values, traditional family values, the work ethic, the right to own property, a strong military, low taxes, strong borders, law and order. All of these things, the conservatives of chattel slavery South believe this. And so the question remains, what is it about conservatism that allowed a political party to criminalize and justify the enslavement of fellow human beings to the point of being subhuman? Where was the Christian values then? Where are those conservative Christian values today? Because homelessness is on the increase, primarily black folks. Crime is on the increase because primarily of black folks. Poverty is on the increase because of black folks. You don't hear it in none of their rhetoric. All they do is talk about conservative values will save America. Conservative values is what allowed the Democratic Party to go on and enslave everybody, black folks. I hope this gets out. I hope this gets out, and I hope that all these conservative Republicans will hear what I'm saying, because it needs to be dealt with. It's imperative that we deal with this. What you think, Keith?
I do
Now,
think, and I have a word for you,
what do you got, Keith?
man. I'm telling you, the Book of Revelation is an interesting book in the Bible, the last chapter, and that tells the story. We know that we win in the end after all
Yes,
this.
we do. After all this, we do win.
That's right. And I like what Jesus said to the church of Thyatira, or the church that he was not Thyatira. That's the church of
Laodicea, Thessalonica,
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
It's very interesting too, that they call it the Church of Philadelphia. You
Well, there
know,
was a Philadelphia. You know that, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the
So
city of brother. Phileo means brotherly love, as
that's
opposed to
right.
agape,
That's
meaning
right.
God kind of love, and eros, which is sexual love and romantic love. This is filio, fellowship. Go ahead.
Right. So he says, "Hold fast what you have. Let no man take your crown." And he talks about the importance of holding fast what you have. What do we have left in this country? We got a constitution. We got a Declaration of Independence. We got the founding documents. We got the principles that they stand for. And that is what we are holding on to. That's what I believe in conserving. When I talk about conservatism, I'm talking about conserving those principles. Hold fast what we have. Let no man take my crown. So that's what we need to do, is not let any man take our faith in those principles, because this is what our founding fathers gave us. These are our statements of faith. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Self-evident is a statement of faith. It's self-evident to every individual who will
And you
admit.
know, and you know, Keith, we got a couple minutes left here.
Sure.
And you know, Keith, um, those founding principles also include the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the 14th Amendment, 13th Amendment, 15th Amendment. It includes the Emancipation Proclamation. It includes those things that affected the most severe and central part of the nation, the American Africans who were the chattel slaves. And they've allowed the Democratic Party, and that was a crowning moment for Republicans. It is a beautiful thing what they did, but they've allowed the Democrats to take their crown away from them.
And
And now
listen to,
they're using that crown to destroy the country.
and listen to this, Ted. Here, this is really awesome. This is verse 26 of chapter 2, Revelation. To everyone, Jesus is speaking, to everyone who overcomes, it says, who to the very end keeps on doing the things that please me, I will give him power over the nations. You will rule them with a rod of iron, with a kubaton.
And a big one.
Just as my father gave me the authority to rule them. And that says, they will be shattered like potter's vessels. The nations are going to be shattered. All of this that's going on that we see right now, all of this is contrary to the Lord, contrary to his word, contrary to his ideas, his concept of government. It's going to be shattered because it'll go up against God. It's going up against the Lord, and it
Well,
won't stand.
well, I tell you, folks, Keith, you're absolutely correct. It is my effort, however, is to go stand in the gap before the Lord and make up the hedge and plead for his mercy and do things that are pleasing in his sight, that perhaps by his divine providence, he will ultimately save this nation in some kind of way, fashion, and form. Don't forget, y'all want to get to know me a little bit better, go to tedhayes.us. And don't forget Keith Hardeen. You go catch him on Facebook. And don't forget to be here next Monday night to Your Power Weapon on urbansmartnetwork.com. And next week, we're going to share with you some more of this. And we're going to talk about Mr. Patriot next week, y'all. Some good news. And also, we'll report to you our meeting with the White House. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, MrPatriot.com. Thank you, Mr. Engineer. We salute our engineer. Thank you so much for having us. Everybody, God bless you. See you next week.